Om Asatoma Sadgamayo Tamasoma Jyotirgamayo Mrityurma Amritangamayo. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. Lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness to light. Lead us from death to immortality. Om. Peace, peace, peace. The subject of my today's talk is Holy Mother, a guide to householders. Holy Mother, as you know, Sarada Devi, Sri Ramakrishna's divine consort, is one of the most important figure in our life. The reason is that we do not see many spiritually evolved women like her in our present day. She is astonishingly attractive, not from the point of view of appearance, but from the point of view of her personality. Though it is very strange that she was completely uneducated, in a sense not literate, but despite that shortcoming, she became one of the most respected women of our time. Started from the very insignificant stage. As time is passing, we slowly see that more and more people are getting attracted by her personality, teachings, and her life. So let us recount a little bit of her life. She was born in a very remote village. It is about 65 miles northwest of Kolkata, called Jairambati. During her time, it was really very, very remote. It used to take about 2 days to reach from Kolkata to her village. There was no good road, and she had to, people in general had to go through village roads on bullock carts or by walk. She had to walk once from Jairambati to Kolkata. So she was born in that village Jairambati, and her father belonged to a Brahmin. Brahmin means priestly class. Though the family did not practice priestly activities because they had land, and by farming they used to maintain their family. So she grew up not in a very poor family, but definitely very with limited income, but they had enough for their subsistence. And in those days, it was not the custom for women or girls to go to school, but somehow or other she had an opportunity to learn a little bit of ABCD, as it is called, Kha Gha in our Indian language, as it is called, and she could read a little bit. But that is by her own effort from her compatriots or from relatives, she learned that. And at the age of 6, she was married to Sri Ramakrishna. And Sri Ramakrishna was about 24 years old at that time. Very strange, but it may not be strange nowadays in a sense. That means age difference may not be in the childhood category, but in the aged category, this type of differences of age is not uncommon even today. But in those days, child marriage was acceptable and was a practice also, you can say. So she was married, but definitely the girl did not go to live with the husband till attain to the maturity. And just as a sidetrack, I have seen this type of child marriages even during our time in remote villages of Gujarat, a district called Kutch. It is almost not exactly desert, but very drought-prone area. So we had done some work there sometimes when there was drought, and we had to have some arrangements for food and free kitchen and all those things. So you saw in a remote village that type of practice is still there, at least at that time, say about 20 or 30 years ago, it was there. So they used to get married at a very early age, but definitely the girl did not go to the husband's place until and only she was mature. And that actually worked for them very well. And there was a handicap also. That means if suppose the husband died or the girl died, then it would be difficult for to get a partner after that if such unfortunate event happens. Otherwise, they are very happy. That means they know each other, the families know each other, and in that way, very what may be said, very good life they could live. So now Holy Mother Sarada Devi was married, and then she lived with her family, and when she attained to the age of 19, we see that she went to Dakshineshwar Kali temple where Sri Ramakrishna used to live. At the time when she was married, Sri Ramakrishna was doing intense spiritual practices. And because intense spiritual practice means it is out of the way practice, so people thought that he has gone mad. And family parents thought that, well, parents means his father or mother thought that, well, probably marriage will be a solution for that. The mind will come down, and in that way, it will be good for it. With that expectation, he was given into marriage. But it did not happen in that way. After marriage, Sri Ramakrishna went back to Dakshineshwar and intensified his spiritual practice, and we see that at the age of 19, that means 6 and 13, that means about after 13 years, she came to Dakshineshwar to live with Sri Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna accepted her. Sri Ramakrishna, though he was intensely spiritual and intensely intense renouncer, because he had married, he had accepted her wife. He did not renounce her wife, though his life is just like an ascetic. That if you read the life, you will see that he is a king of renouncers, as it is called. He did not have attachment to anything. And at that time, Sri Ramakrishna had difficulties from the point of view of keeping his health in good condition. Food and other comfort and all those things was almost impossible for him to take care of. So she was very helpful in that way, and she started living with Sri Ramakrishna, and Sri Ramakrishna checked with her. That means as a husband. She has some definitely claim, if you call it, that means a right to live together and have children and all those things. And Sri Ramakrishna checked with her. That means, well, I am your married husband, you are my married wife, and you have every right to live a ordinary married life. But you see, my condition is like this. I do spiritual practice, and I am always in search of God, and I like this type of life. So what is your opinion? How do you want to treat me? So she said very firmly that I just want to be a helper to you in your pursuit. So that actually solved a problem for Sri Ramakrishna. That means she was really very gracious, and Sri Ramakrishna was very grateful, and in that way he started training her in the spiritual line. So after getting spiritual training from Sri Ramakrishna, she also became a great spiritual personality, because you know Sri Ramakrishna by his own practice attained to a great amount of spiritual wealth, if you call it. That means he practiced different paths, different religion, and had the highest realization. Not only that, he used to go into spiritual highest realization off and on. That is very, very uncommon. That means we do not see a parallel to Sri Ramakrishna who used to go to that type of spiritual mood. Except, of course, Sri Chaitanya's life also we see that he used to live in that condition for a long time. That means at a stretch he used to live in a high spiritual mood. So whatever it may be. So that was she had a very great teacher for her training, and ultimately Sri Ramakrishna understood her spiritual qualities and worshipped her as his own chosen ideal, and that was the epitome of her spiritual recognition and Sri Ramakrishna's greatest tribute to her also. And Sri Ramakrishna and Holy Mother maintained that relationship. That means they were that spiritually guided and spiritually emboldened beings. So during the life of Sri Ramakrishna, you see, throughout his life, that means as long as Sri Ramakrishna lived, Holy Mother used to take care of her from the point of view and comfort, and also used to take care of the devotees who used to come, and all the household chores was with her. And at the same time, she used to take care of Sri Ramakrishna's women devotees also. Some of them used to stay with her also, and later on we see that some of them became very devoted to Holy Mother Saraswati and stayed throughout their life with her. So after the passing away of Sri Ramakrishna, you see, her real spiritual qualities started to blossom. Because Sri Ramakrishna said that my health is not that good, I shall not live long, but as long as I live, I shall not be able to complete my mission. That means what needed to be done for the humanity, spiritual awakening of the human being, humanity as large, will not be possible for me physically. So I entrust you to continue my mission as long as you live. So in that way, he trained her to give spiritual instructions and spiritual counseling, guide them, supervise them, and if there is any difficulty in any situation in the spiritual matter, in any other matter, she was really very helpful to Sri Ramakrishna's devotees. So first thing is that after Sri Ramakrishna's passing away, Sri Ramakrishna had a group of young devotees who dedicated themselves to monastic life, and in that way they were preparing themselves by doing intense spiritual practices. The Holy Mother was a great supporter to them. Supporter in a sense, that means they did not have initial knowledge how to live together, and there was no place for them to stay. So Holy Mother actually fervently prayed that they should have a place to stay and at least have some food so that they do not have any difficulty in their pursuit. So that was accomplished. And then there are many, many devotees, they started to come. Sri Ramakrishna himself had trained a few householder devotees also, or given spiritual instruction to a few householder devotees. They were definitely dependent upon Holy Mother Saraswati for further pursuit. And not only that, when they came to know, in general, when people came to know about Holy Mother and her spiritual stature, they also started coming to her for spiritual knowledge. And she had to initiate them, give them direction, and also that she had to decide for them. Some of them wanted to be monk, some of them wanted to remain in the householder's life, or some of them could not decide in what way they pursue spiritual life. Some of them had a problem in their family. Sometimes there is a problem in the monastery among the monks. So all those things used to come to her, and she very intelligently, not only intelligently, very affectionately solve those problems to the extreme benefit of the of everybody. So there are many stories and experiences or reminiscences that has been penned down about her in different areas where he was really very helpful. In monastic life, many monks actually used to come to her when there was some difficulties between amongst themselves or in the administration of the monastery. So she used to solve them, and also householders, naturally they have hundreds of problems, so she had to listen to them and give them direction. Some people could not decide whether they will take to householder's life or monastic life. So according to her judgment, that means looking to the nature of that person, she used to give the counseling. That means, well, you are really good fit, you are fit for pursuing spiritual life, so you can renounce and become a monk. Or some people were not really that much competent to be renounced, so she used to say that don't be afraid, take to householder's life and pursue your householder's life well, and in householder's life also you will attain spirituality and liberation. So in that way he used to encourage them. So in this way she used to live in Kolkata. Because her many devotees used to live in Kolkata, she had to come to Kolkata, and other times she used to live in her village, Jairambati. So in both places devotees used to go, and other than the devotees, we see that she had to administer her family also. Family means she was the eldest daughter of her parents, and other brothers were there. So they were not really very spiritual, unfortunately, and they are very mundane, and there are always some quarrel between them, though she lived with them, but at the same time she had to look after them for their peaceful living. So there are many instances where we see that she had given very prudent advices which solve problems in their lives. Now today I thought that I shall talk about what Holy Mother Sarada Devi had taught to the householders. You know, I made a calculation that she had about 1100 initiated devotees. 1100. That is not too much in today's count, but in her time, actually that is quite a large number. Sri Ramakrishna himself, probably not more than 100 devotees were initiated by him, which includes monastics as well as householders. But in case of Holy Mother, we see that she was very liberal. That means she said that if somebody comes to me, addressing me as mother and asked initiation, I cannot refuse that. That means it is to the best of my ability I try to fulfill their desire. So in that way, many people, those who could not be accepted, or other direct disciples, that means like Swami Brahmananda or Swami Shivananda or Swami Vivekananda, so they used to come to Holy Mother Sarada Devi and used to get initiation. In that way, without any, what may you call, looking into the personality or general condition and whatever, if somebody asked for initiation, she used to give initiation. In that way, she had many disciples. But it doesn't mean that everybody was really very advanced or did spiritual practices that did not have any problem or did not create any problem. But definitely her wisdom was there. It can be found in this way that out of those 1100, about 118 of them became monastic monks. That means they took to monastic house. That is 10% you can see. That is very, very, what is called, impressive figure, I must say. So that shows that she was very prudent in advising devotees who is really competent to become a monk, and who is really not competent to become a monk, but definitely can follow spiritual life as a householder. So in one place we see one of the direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna, his name was Swami Prapannananda. His house, that means it came from a village which was not too far from Jairambati. It is between, it is almost near Jairambati. On the way to Jairambati, his village actually comes. He hailed from that village. And not only he hailed from the village, he had some relatives in Kolkata. They were also great devotees of Sri Ramakrishna. His name was Swami Prapannananda. Babu Ram, his pre-monastic name was Babu Ram. So in one place he wrote in a letter to a devotee that in the life and teachings of Sri Ramakrishna, there are many examples or ideas of which the householder devotees can follow. But in his own life, actually, he was the Tag Samrat. Tag means king of renouncers. That is really quite evident. That means that aspect of Sri Ramakrishna's life is very, very prominent. And at the same time, we see in the core of the Holy Mother's life, though she was internally a great renunciate, but at the same time he lived in a life of a householder and lived a life of an ordinary woman's life. And that was a selection, or that was a situation that was with her. And then she actually was a teacher of householders how to live in the life of how to live a good family life. For that we see that she was, though internally she was a renunciate. That means we do not see that she ever wore any ochre robe or traveled to many places of pilgrimage. Of course she did a little bit pilgrimage, but always with her householder devotees mostly she did. But no sign of external renunciation we can see in her life. She maintained her family, she maintained the devotees, took care of her family and devotees, just like a woman. And not only that, she counseled them and used to take care when there was a problem. So all those things were part of her life. That shows that she lived to teach householders how to live an ideal householder's life. That Swami Prapannananda is pointing out. So that shows that there is a balance in the advent of Sri Ramakrishna's Holy Mother. One was really for, you can say, monastics. Another was definitely good for householders. Life-wise means how to live practice these two types of lives ideally. Now, Sri Ramakrishna actually instructed her. That means she said that she will have to do more than he had done. Holy Mother is expected to do, or she is given the responsibility of doing more for others than he himself has done. So in that way he told once to her. So most of the life we see that she has spent in teaching the householders. Though sometimes the monastics also lived with her because they are disciples. Some of the monastic disciples actually lived in Jairambati, used to help her in her activities, and they have to live amongst the householders also. But she was very particular about the disciplines that are necessary to live monastics living with the householders. So there is no mixed up, and she always reminded that what needs to be done or what is appropriate for a householder when they are in company of the monks, and what is the ideal or discipline for the monk to live with the householders. In that way, in such circumstances, they were looked after properly and taught properly by Holy Mother Sarada Devi. So this is the life that she had lived, that we see. And from the point of view when the monastic order was established, that means after passing away of Sri Ramakrishna in 1886, the monastic order established by Swami Vivekananda. They took vows of monasticism, and then they had this place for living in Varanagar. That means Varanagar monastery was started, and they started doing intense spiritual practices. Some of them actually went out for pilgrimage, spent months and years in doing spiritual practices in different holy places of India. And Holy Mother actually more or less was not taken care of by anybody at that time. So by seeing her pitiable condition, we see that Swami Yogananda actually started taking care of her as a monk or as a representative from the monastery. So she used to take care, and afterwards we see Swami Saradananda. After the passing away of Swami Yogananda, Swami Saradananda became the main person who used to take care of her. And he was very much, we can say, important. He was very important in the life of Holy Mother. And Holy Mother also used to depend on him very much. He used to say that he carries my weight. Bhari. Bhari means, that means, people carry weight on their shoulder or head, so they have a heavy weight. So he used to carry Holy Mother as if a heavy weight. So in that way, Bhari, he used to address him as my Bhari. So he used to take care of her health, and her devotees used to look after that she is kept well from the point of view of living as well as the spiritual administration. And he understood that, well, she needs to be in the village as well as in the town, Kolkata. So he arranged 2 residences for her in the village as well as in the city of Kolkata. So she used to travel, that according to her convenience or necessity, she used to travel between these 2 places. And ultimately we see that when she was aged, that means at around the age of 60, she fell ill. Ill means a disease which is known as Kala-Azar, which is really intense fever, and there are many other symptoms, and in those days there is no cure for that. So it is, you can say, extreme type of malaria, just my guess. So she was suffering there in village, there is no treatment, so she was brought in Kolkata at that time. That Udbodhan house, that means her Calcutta residence, was already there. So she was there, and all good doctors were called, but ultimately she did not really responded to the treatment, and she passed away with that disease. Then his body was brought to Belur Math, that means, which by that time Swami Vivekananda had returned from West and bought that property and started building the monastery, and her body was brought and was cremated there. So the temple was constructed later on by Swami Sarananda himself. He constructed 2 temples, one in Jairambati, which is the birthplace, and nice temple with a statue of Holy Mother Sarada Devi, and it is now a place of pilgrimage. And also after passing away, the place where she was cremated, another temple was built up. It is a smaller temple in the Belur Math premises. The big temple is the Sri Ramakrishna's temple that we see in the picture, and by the side there are a few other temples, and one of them is Holy Mother's temple. That means it was constructed before the big temple was constructed, because the big temple took some time to be constructed. So in this way, we see that she had spent a very fruitful life from the point of view of spirituality, and her teachings are really very helpful to us. And I would like to share some of the teachings that may be practicable for our lives also. she is saying that means there is always a conflict, that monastic life and what is called householder's life, when one looks to the spiritual life. That means spiritual life definitely has two avenues. One avenue is monastic life, which is intense. That means those who dedicate for spirituality, they can become monk and they take monastic vows and pursue spiritual life by renouncing everything. But what about the householders? So where is there no way for them to be spiritual or have self-realization? So that is a conflict that always comes in our mind. So she used to give appropriate advices. She says in one place, those who belong to a very high plane of existence alone can take to the monastic life and free themselves from all bondages. Again, there are some who are born to have a little taste of this worldly life. I say that one should see through worldly enjoyments. Then probably this was addressed to the topic came about a person who was undecided about, probably he had the opening for both, the opening of the both avenues were in front of that person. So he is saying, let X means the name of the person is not written here, marry and finish all enjoyments in this life. Otherwise, there is no knowing when he may fall a victim to some unfulfilled desire. This is very important. That means if some desire, that is very difficult for the individual to figure out by one's own observation. But a competent teacher actually can figure out a person's, can read the mind of that person, what is really inside that person. That means whether just for temporary inspiration, he wants to become a monk. You see, if we read Swami Vivekananda's words, actually you'll find that yes, if I have the opportunity, I shall become a monk, and then actually I shall dedicate my life for the betterment of humankind, especially in India. At the time of Swami Vivekananda, during that time, a lot of poverty was there, bad health, no education. So young people, when they used to read, they thought that, well, I shall dedicate my life and become a monk, and they serve the poor people. So that was quite common inspiration. But the point is that a good teacher actually knows whether that inspiration is really deep, permanent, or whether the person will be able to stick to what actually is thinking now. So she is saying in that point, that means let X marry and finish all enjoyments in this life. Otherwise, there is no knowing when he may fall a victim of some unfulfilled desire. Probably at the bottom of the mind, she could understand that probably he has some desire of a householder's life, have children, or live a family life, or earn some money. All those things were at the bottom of his mind. So she could really read that. That is why she is suggesting that, he wants to become a monk, but it seems that he should marry and just fulfill unfulfilled desire. This is important because after becoming a monk, if the desires, unfulfilled desires remain in the mind, it will be a life of conflict. That means you cannot go back to your householder's life, and you are not really fully dedicated to monastic life. So it will be mental peace will be disturbed. It is not possible to live a monastic life full of desires, or a little bit of desires even, which is really available in the householder's life. So she read the mind and said that, that he should take to householder's life and fulfill her desires. Then actually later on he can become what is called, dedicate himself for spirituality. But you may be sure of this, that so long as he remains under the master's protection, he can never sleep. So that is a sort of a guarantee, or she is hoping that even if he takes to married life, if he remains attached to Sri Ramakrishna, so the progress of spirituality is assured. That is the point. He will not really be bereft of spirituality. So that is the way solution. You can see that we cannot read our own mind. So she understood what will be good for that person and said that, well, at present he need not really pursue thoroughly spiritual life by becoming monk. First he enter into the householder's life, have some children and raise them until they are educated and settled. Then actually he can pursue spiritual life. And all through, that means even after marriage, if he does not really quit Sri Ramakrishna or get attached to Sri Ramakrishna, remain attached to Sri Ramakrishna, there will be no problem in future. That is a great assurance that she is giving to that person. So this is very important type of decision that she had to take. That means, householder's life immensely complicated. You do not know what will happen in future. And at the same time, monastic life, you are renouncing everything which you will not be able to go back also. So it is a very important decision that one has to take. And she used to give appropriate decision by, you can say, that reading the mind, what is in the depth of the mind of the person, she could understand. In that way she gave counseling. When a young man, out of temporary dispassion, expressed unwillingness to marry, mother said, "How is that? God has created things in pairs, 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 legs, and likewise man and woman." So she was quite confident that that person is really unfit to become a monk. That is why she encouraged by showing these examples. That means in the nature you see everything goes by pair. So why you are afraid of getting married? How is that? God has created things in pairs. 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 legs, and likewise man and woman. Very, what is called, impressive example. To some hesitant about marriage, mother said, "Why can't one lead a good life if one is married? The mind alone is everything. Did not the master marry me?" So that is a concrete example. That means mind is everything. And because Ramakrishna's mind was always got intoxicated, there is no problem in getting married. So she is giving the example, well, there is no harm in marrying. Sri Ramakrishna himself married me, but at the same time she was the king of renunciation, great renunciate. So it is up to the mind that is the most important thing. One disciple said to mother that he had tried to lead an unmarried life, but now found it impossible to remain a celibate. Mother gave him assurance and said, "Don't be afraid to marry. Sri Ramakrishna had many householder disciples. Go and marry. Don't worry." So that type of assurance also she had given to a person who at the beginning wanted to be a monk or was trying to live a life of a monk. Then actually it was not possible for him to continue to that type of life because of mental disturbances or what was inside the mind, so that bothered him. So in that way she actually disclosed to Holy Mother that it is not possible for me to live a life of a celibate. That means brahmacharya as it is called. At the beginning, initial stage of monasticism. Then Holy Mother actually gave the proper counseling that yes, if you have desire, don't worry, go get married. And then don't forget Sri Ramakrishna, that is the point. Sri Ramakrishna had many householder disciples. They were actually householder disciples among the householder disciples also. So if you read the lives of them, you will be very impressed that even persons like Girish Chandra Ghosh, who was an extreme type of what is called not notorious but extreme type of worldly person, he also had that opportunity of having the life of a great spiritual personality. Towards the end of his life, actually, he has said that if I had known that I had a person like Sri Ramakrishna to take care of me, I could have done more mundane things, that means bad things even. So that shows the courage and the change that may come if somebody really holds to Sri Ramakrishna. To sincere lay disciples who spoke of envying monastic life, Naturally, you know, those who saw that monastics are really so free and they go here and there and they do not have any problem, they don't have to think of their children, their education, being the food on the table. So naturally they envied them. So to sincerely disciples who spoke of envying monastic life, that means they thought that, oh, monastic life is the greatest life and we have missed it. So in that way, some used to tell to Holy Mother. So Mother would say, is the okara everything? That means monastic means you have to take the vow of monasticism and wear a okara robe. So you will realize God without it. That is a great assurance that you don't have to become a monastic or take to monastic vows and wear a okara robe to realize God. You will realize God without it. That means even if you do not become a monk. What is the need of taking the okara robe? What is the necessity? Actually, the point is that mind is the most important thing. Where the mind is, actually you are that. That is the point. So if you are mentally renunciate, then there is no point of taking the, what is called, this outward okara robe, outward garb of okara robe. Another disciple said, Master said that those who would accept him as their spiritual ideal would not be born again. So Sri Ramakrishna's assurance to disciples, that means if somebody takes to me, that means if somebody follows me, that means my teachings, because his teachings are the realized person's teachings. It doesn't mean that it is only he was the teacher, but there are many teachers, but in particular, those who will follow him, they have their fresh and what is called shining example of a person who has realized God and used to live in God. So naturally by following him, there is an assurance that they will not be born again. That means we'll have the self-realization. Then again, the contradiction you see, again Swami said that no liberation is possible without being initiated into sannyasa. So Swami Vivekananda was a, what is called, supporter or very much in favor of taking to monastic vows. That means complete renunciation. That means he wanted monks to do work for the poor people. That was his mission. Mission in a sense, by traveling throughout breadth of India, he found that, well, it is a mockery to teach spirituality to empty stomach. First, they need to be taken care of appropriately. Then actually, when they are fit, physically and mentally, then actually spirituality can come. That means spiritual practices may come. Otherwise, the mind will be completely disturbed always to take care of the body, and without education, many problems will come. That is why he emphasized to take care of the needy. That is why he again encouraged, wanted to have many young people to become monks. That is why he is saying, the devotee disciple is saying. Again, Swamiji said that no liberation is possible without being initiated into sannyasa. What then will be the way out for the householders? So what will happen? That means a householder cannot become monk, so will he not be able to have self-realization, will not reach God? So that is a definitely valid question if somebody is really a follower of Swami Vivekananda. Then mother said, yes, what the master said is true, and what Swamiji said is also equally true. You can see the prudence of Holy Mothers. That means how actually this intricate questions appropriately answered. The householders have no need of external renunciation. That is the solution. That means they need to have the formal renunciation. Renunciation means you have to have a badge. People will know that you are renunciate. That is the custom. Custom means otherwise people will not recognize you or will not be able to what is called give proper respect or learn from you or maintain you. All those problems are there. That is why some sort of badge is necessary. That is why monks take to okara robe. You know, in Buddhism, monasticism is highly praised, and many householders actually take to monasticism for maybe a few weeks, maybe for a month or for a few years, that because of the value. That means they respect monasticism. It doesn't mean that after living the life of a monastic for a month, they cannot go back to the householder's life. That is possible, and that is approved in what is called in Buddhism. That is why monks are really very much, monasticism is very much respected. And monasticism being a sort of humbleness also. That means in Buddhism you have to beg food for your subsistence. Buddha himself, up to the end of his life, used to go to the villages, towns where he used to camp to beg his own food. So that brings what is called, if suppose a millionaire takes to what is called monastic life for a few weeks or something like that, it will be great what is called learning from that for that person, that you have to be humble in your life, though you are really well established in your life. So naturally there is a great advantage and also a reason for taking to Okarlo. So she is saying, yes, what the master said is true, and what Swamiji said is also equally true. The householders have no need of external renunciation. They will spontaneously get internal renunciation. But some people need external renunciation. Why should you be afraid? Surrender yourself to the master and always remember that he stands behind. So instead of taking to the formal monastic vows, if you are really unattached, what you are doing, and it is equivalent to monastic life. You don't have to take to what is called okarlo. You don't have to wear okarlo just for the sake of showing that you are a renunciate. You do not have anything. So that is the solution. That means mental renunciation is must for householder as well, definitely for the for a monastic. That actually works, because mind is everything. God realization is a completely mental affair. Outside things do not matter. But outside things actually help, there is no doubt about that. So in that way, if somebody is mentally renunciate, naturally there is no problem in having the self-realization. Then she has said, spiritual progress becomes easier if husband and wife agree in their views regarding spiritual practices. That is really very important. I said sometimes give an example here that I have heard that we had a devotee. That means he is still alive and he is still in contact with us. Now, of course, he will be of our Chuck's age. That means probably they studied together. Chuck also knows him. So he said, he came once and stayed one night with us and told his story how actually he became a devotee of Sri Ramakrishna. He used to go to the college in Fresno, and there was Dr. Lewis, many of you know. So she used to have a group, study circle type of group. So she joined there, and our Swami, and also after him, Swami Prapannananda also used to go. I also went there. In that way, there was a group, and he used to have this Vedantic study. So he was attracted and took initiation from Sudhana Swamiji, and later on we see that he pursued a profession, and he became a householder, married. But her wife was very much against a non-Christian religion. That means she actually, Christ is everything, and anybody who doesn't follow Christ actually go to hell, that type of person. So it was a problem for him to pursue Vedanta spiritual practices, that means the meditation and such other things. So he used to say that, Swami, what shall I do? When she goes to bed, actually I unlock my drawer. From there I take out the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. I read a few pages and then I can actually put it under lock and key. That is the situation if the husband and wife do not agree to the same path. That is why Holy Mother is saying spiritual progress becomes easier if husband and wife agree in their views regarding spiritual practices. Very, very important teaching of Holy Mother Sarvadavi. Then she says, disciple, the scriptures declare that in the service of her husband a woman may find divine beatitude and union with the divine. Yes, in scriptures it has been said that Potir Punne Swatir Punna, that is a saying in Bengali, that means if the husband does the spiritual practice, automatically, without doing spiritual practice, the wife also acquires that. Just like wealth, that means just what is called Jeff Bezos has so much money, so naturally when the divorce came, he had to share the money. So in the same way, actually, share automatically comes in spirituality to the wife. So the scriptures declare that in the service of her husband, a woman may find divine beatitude and union with the divine. If a woman tries to lead a life of self-control by pleading and reasoning with her husband, somewhat against his wishes, is that a sin? That means, suppose the husband says that no, you should not do spiritual practices or live a life of what is called mental renunciation as has been prescribed. But you just serve me and you'll automatically acquire spirituality. So then actually one woman devotee, I believe, she has asked that if a woman tries to lead a life of self-control by pleading and reasoning with her husband, somewhat against his wishes, is that a sin? Then the Holy Mother replied, if it is for the sake of God, then it is no sin. Yes, if the wife actually does not want to remain with her husband in the relationship, and then if it is for the sake of God, not for the sake of what is called ego or something like that, or dislike or something, but for the sake of God, then it is okay. That means you can really go against the will of your husband. One must control the senses. So this is the advice that she gave to a woman who actually had that problem. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, one must practice self-control after the birth of one or two children. This is a very good advice, even present economic circumstances also. It is very difficult to manage too many children. So many problems at their schooling, and you become a taxi driver for the children after some time. And not only that, where they will go, what they are doing, or keeping traces of that. Then there is this, now computer has come, the cell phone has come, there is no end of problems. So naturally, it is understood that if you have desire to have a family life, just have one or two, then rest of the time, rest of the life you spend in spirituality. Incidentally, I had a talk with the owner of this club, so I was very much surprised. He said that I have 5 children, and I have 8 children. 5 of them my own, and 3 I have adopted. And 4 of them actually work in the club. I don't know how actually he manages such a large family. So there are such advices that we find that has been collected by some of the writers regarding family people who want to renounce worldly life. Mother said, if you really want to give up, first make suitable arrangements for the subsistence of your dependents. That is also very practical. If somebody wants to renounce after getting married and having children, then naturally you have to take care how actually they fall into water. That means they do not know how to earn money or maintain family, so it will be a sort of massacre for them. So she said that, well, if you are too much interested, that means your desire is too intense, then make arrangements for their subsistence till they actually become standing on their own feet. So for wife, keep some money, for children, keep some money so that they can pursue studies and stand on their own feet. So that much arrangements you have to make, and then you take to monastic life. It is something like that. Suppose the husband dies at what is called suddenly. So naturally, it's an accidental thing. And if there is money, naturally the family can be maintained, wife and children can be maintained. That if it is not there, then you can imagine what the difficulty will befall on the family. So in this way, we see that there are many stories, and stories means reminiscences left by many devotees of Holy Mother Sarada Devi, how in different circumstances, especially in the life of householders, she has counseled them how to keep one hand in the family and other hand towards God. And in that way one can really ultimately reach God. That means have the self-realization